And so now, that being said, I'd like to introduce everybody to Steve Marple, who will be giving our demo today. Steve, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Stephen Marple. I am our lead business developer here at InsideView. I focus on enterprise, mid-market, and small business. So I do pretty much everything. I reach out to everyone, talk to everyone. So we can have a very good conversation about how to use this tool and how it works inside Salesforce. And we'll get started. First, I'm going to show you just a quick little PowerPoint slide. We're going to go through a few things to give you a high-level understanding of InsideView, what we do, and why we do it. That way, when we go into the tool, you can better understand how the tool works and how you can apply these tools in your everyday life. So, to get started, InsideView, who we are, what we do. We are salespeople. We made a sales product for salespeople because it is getting harder and harder and harder to do our job. More people have less time to do what they need to do, and so they're a lot busier. It's hard to get to them, get them engaged, and get them talking to you. A lot more noise in the market, so how can you cut through it? We specifically designed our product to do that and give you those abilities to do that and do it quickly too. So if you are having issues or if you're looking at new ways of doing this, you are not alone. We've helped many other customers or clients out there do these exact same things. And everyone has a very specific case or very specific thing that they were trying to do. You would be surprised at how well our system can adapt itself to whatever needs you might have, because it does really run the gambit in the entire sales pipeline. I'll kind of show you that in just a second here. We literally do the entire sales pipeline. InsideView is not just focused on sales. That's what we are talking about today, but InsideView is a complete pipeline solution. We can help you in marketing, we can help you in sales, and we can help you in account management. And where we help you has shown dramatic results for every single one of our customers. So now I really need to talk to you about this. We kind of touched this on this already, but B2B selling is very, very difficult. It has always been difficult. It's never been an easy job, and it's getting more difficult because, like I said, it's just the way of the world right now. So how can we help you? There's several ways we can help you, and we can give you the most important things to get that conversation started. Because really, as salespeople, once we get that conversation started, once we're engaged, it's just downhill at that point. It's super easy. You fall off a log at that point. So what does Inside do, and how does it do it? We provide three things for you: data, insights, and connections. And the reason why we provide these three things are, we sat down and said, what do you need to connect with someone? How can you better engage? Not just engage with them, engage at a higher level. You have your competitors, you have the people you're competing against. You know, the first one at the table is most likely going to be the person who wins that business. But if you come second at the table, but if you show up in a nice press suit and you're very, very accommodating and you're a good resource, you're most likely going to win over that competitor, especially if they aren't as professional, they don't engage in a high level, or they're kind of a jerk. So we can give you a way to engage at that really high level every single time with every single customer and do it in a relatively timely manner. These three things will allow you to do that. So without further ado, the very first thing is data. Data is basically exactly what I'm saying. It's information on the companies you're looking at, information on the people, their phone numbers, their email addresses, firmographic information, where they're located, all that sort of stuff. It's very straightforward. And the data is very, very accurate. It comes from a multitude of different sources. We use a very detailed process of filtering that data. We're basically obsessed with data quality. We only want to put the absolute best, most qualified data in front of you, and we do lead the market in that specific space. If you'd like to talk more about that and how that works, we can definitely get into that conversation in a more one-on-one situation, because it is a bit of a deep issue and requires some education in some parts. But needless to say, data is data, and it is not the end-all, be-all. If you had 100% perfect data, you knew every single person, you were omnipotent when it comes to that, you would probably get a 6 to 8% response rate if you just had data. If you knew all the phone numbers and the titles of people, that tends to be the average across the market. I mean, think about it. If you found a business card on the ground with the proper information for a person at a show, when was the last time that business card ever helped you close a deal or engage with that person? Not very likely, which is why we provide these other two things, insights and connections. These are things that will raise the response rate from 6 to 8%, which is what most people tend to see, all the way up to anywhere from 48 to 84% response rate. And I will explain those in a little bit more context. So insights, very straightforward. Insights are basically understanding your customer. We can give you insights into what's going on in their world. What is top of their mind? What are they dealing with? Where are they going? What is their direction? If you understand your customer and you engage with them on a level that is familiar to them, like just an example, if something of theirs is burning down to the ground and you knew this and you sell fire extinguishers, you showed up and said, hey, I have some fire extinguishers. They're very likely to want to purchase your product right then and there. It's top of mind, it's an issue for them, and you're relevant. Those things can help you engage at a very high level once again. And we pull these insights from every public source pretty much out there. We gather it from 30,000 different trusted sources. We filter it, we refine it, we put it in front of you in a quickly and easily edible and digestible format so your people can work with it. We also allow you to use it in a different fashion. I'll show you that later about how to dig into that to help find when people are ready to buy. But yes, if you use insights properly, you can expect a response rate of around 33 to 36%. And so that you're already raising that level of engagement because you're talking about something that's important to them. If something's on their plate, they're dealing with it right now, and you have a solution relevant to that problem that they're dealing with, you're more likely to get a response and also a sale. So the final one, and by far my most favorite one, are connections. Connections are just basically social connections. We all have them, and everyone uses them at a different level. This technology allows your people, every single person at your company, every single salesperson, whether they're your best or your worst, to engage at the highest level possible with social connections. They can leverage not just their social connections, but every single social connection your company has, and at the drop of a hat too. So it's instantaneous. I kind of give you a visualization of that. You follow my little pointer here. Here we go. Most people consider their personal network, LinkedIn, Facebook, their Outlook contacts to be the epitome of a socially connected salesperson. If you have 500 plus connections like I do and many other people do, you are at the top of your game, the tippy top of that mountain. If you have a good Facebook or a good Twitter account or good Outlook contacts, you are a social salesman. Well, that's true, but that's actually just striking the surface. There's much more beneath it that you can look into. There is your work history, companies that you've worked at. There is your education history, where you went to school, your alma maters. All that stuff can be leveraged to start conversations. Trust me, I've done it, especially with guys 20, 30 years my senior. You can even use your happy customers. Why wouldn't you want to reference your happy customers? They're your best form of leads in most cases. And then finally, those are all your personal networks. That's great. You tie those together, maybe you'll have a few hundred above your 500 connection. Maybe you have 1,000, 2,000, who knows? When you leverage your coworkers' networks too at the same time, you exponentially increase your reach. I have 500 plus connections on my LinkedIn. It's about probably 599, I think, right now. Most of those are director level and above, so they are decision makers. Our database is director level and above, so this will give you a quick, easy matchup. I have about 500, a little over. When we connect all of our social networks here at InsideView via these things you see right here, I get direct access, directly or one step away through a coworker of mine, to 36,000 different decision makers. That's director level or above. I also get contacts into over 17,000 companies. That's quite a jump. And to give you a little more insight into that, we have about 40 to 50 salespeople here connecting our networks at InsideView. If you have more than that, you will probably see a much bigger number. If you have less than that, you would be surprised how far that will go. So, oh yes, if you leverage all three of those things together, you can expect anywhere between a 46 to 84% response rate. I'm personally seeing about a 66% response rate right now. Okay, so once again, just kind of give you a high-level view. Here is your pipeline. We can help you at the very beginning with marketing. We can help you increase the amount of leads you capture and also make them more robust, fill them out, enrich that data so they go directly to your salespeople who are supposed to have them, who you want to talk to, like the CEOs, the VPs of sales, quickly. And then on sales side, which we talked about, we can help you basically know which companies are ready to buy, which ones you can talk to right now. And then on the account management side, we use these same three technologies to let you know which one of the accounts you currently own and are working with are in jeopardy, you might be about to lose, and also which ones you have which are able to grow right now. You should reach out to start selling to. So yeah, so that's it in a nutshell, 10,000-foot view over. Let's dig into the tool. And if anyone has any questions at this point, please feel free to put them into the box. We will get them at the end, and I'll hopefully get to answer as many as possible. All right, so let's get to the meat of the issue, the fun stuff. So here we are in Salesforce. This is our Salesforce instance. This is what it looks like. It probably looks very similar to yours, where you have a company like Apple. And let's say, just for this purpose, you and I we're a team. We've been asked to go after Apple and Dell, or Apple in this case. The first thing you and I would probably do as your salespeople would be to jump into Salesforce and pull it up and say, all right, who owns this? Well, Christian owns this, but let's see if it's in my territory, see if we can go after it, see if something we can do that. Well, you have the information you have inside your system. InsideView is directly underneath it. So maybe the information was inputted improperly. Maybe it wasn't fully put in there. We can easily and quickly look at the information inside InsideView and work it. And as we go through this, you will notice that InsideView is situated inside not just the account, it's also in the opportunity, the lead, and the contact level. All these things are connected, and they show up automatically. It's very, very easy to work with. You'll also notice that most of what we do, we can do in 1 or 2 clicks. We specifically designed the system to put as much information at your fingertips as quickly as possible, then also be able to transfer any information from our database to yours so you can act upon it within a couple of clicks of the button. To show you that right now, you'll see this sync feature anywhere inside of our system when you're looking at a contact or a company. You click the button, and what that basically does, it pulls up our stare and compare. What this basically shows you is the information inside of our database here and the information inside of your CRM here. Let's say this is completely blank. I can transfer over all the information if I wanted to, or if it's filled out, I can choose specific things I'd like to transfer over. I click a button, and it's done. And that information is now inside our CRM, and we can act upon it. We can run reports, we can run views, we can work upon it at that specific level if we'd like to. Pretty straightforward. So let me go back. Also, I'm going to actually pop this out so we can actually see more of it. When you're working inside your CRM, it allows your people to stay inside the CRM and work inside of it, but it also is quickly and easily transferable straight from here to our website. And I'll close this down so you can see it. So if I click any of these red buttons, here, 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 or here, you'll get direct access to our website. So rather than having to log in and pull other things up, if you'd rather work on the website, a couple clicks and you're directly to the information you need. And I normally work inside of our CRM, but I'm pulling this up so as we go ahead and move forward, you can see the full instance and everything that we have and we offer, because there is literally quite a bit of information on each page. I'm going to try to go a little bit slower because I also tend to power through these things, and sometimes it can be a little bit too much. So, all right. So right now we're looking at Apple Incorporated. This is a company view inside of InsideView. We are on the website. You can actually see the 3 technologies I talked about: the data, the insights, and the connections here. Up here at the top, we see the data. This is basic firmographic information. So you and I look, hey, look at that. They're in California. That's in our territory. They're the right size for us. They make a lot of money. That's good to hear. That means they can probably spend money and spend something on our product. And we read more about the company. It sounds like a company that could possibly use our product or service. Let's go for it. This is perfect. So we've looked at the data, and that's helped us kind of narrow it down. We know we can go after it. Well, let's see if now is the right time to talk to them. You can see here in the insights that we talked about, the 30,000 different sources that we pull from. There's quite a lot of things about Apple because they're a very public company. They're a very big company, lots going on with them. So we'll kind of shrink this down to maybe 1 day. There we go. That makes it a little more usable. So we have lots of these are what we call smart agents. These are basically trigger events or catalyst events or sales events. Something that is relatable to your sales process. Everyone has different trigger events that they're looking for. Depending on what you're selling, you may be interested in leadership changes. You may be interested in mergers or acquisitions. You may be interested in underperforming or overperforming, data security. It just really depends on what you're selling and what is a trigger event for your sales process. Most people tend to be leadership changes. So I don't see anything here, so let's pop it back to 7 days. There we go. We have 13 leadership changes in the last 7 days that have been talked about out in the public. A new CEO of brand consulting. We can we can read a little bit here, or we can pull it out into another window and dig into the article and read more about it if we'd like to. It's very easy to work with. It's a couple clicks and you're at the information that you want. And if it works, great, you can go with it. You have a conversation piece now to start with. If it isn't, you keep working or you find something else. And by the way, we offer 18 of these agents that you can work with. You can actually create your own custom agents if you'd like. So if none of these things are something you can work with, you're looking for something very specific, like maybe a product or service, like let's say Box.com. If you know that a company uses Box.com, it's a 100% sale every single time, and you want to know when any company out there is using it, you can make your own custom agent to look specifically for them. Are they using Box.com? Did they mention anything about Box.com? Did Box.com talk about them as a reliable customer instead of a white paper? You will be able to find these things easily with this system. Okay, so we've done that. So let's say we found a leadership change and it's in the area we're looking at, or it's in a relatively close area, so this is a perfect time for us to talk. The trigger event is there. We know that it's the time to talk, right? So let's see who we know inside the company. We can go to the People tab, or we can click right here and find out who we have as far as direct connections. Apple's a big company, so we have about 272 direct connections into this company. Let me just show you how to use the People tab because it's actually pretty nice. Depending on what kind of people you talk to, what kind of titles or level, you can easily sort through this. So maybe we want to talk to people in marketing. Maybe we only talk to the VP of marketing. Boom, there. We've already found 3 people we can work with. If we'd like to, I'm going to show you the MultiSync function. It shows up here when we work inside the system. You can easily sync up to 20 people at once with our MultiSync function. So if you pull a VPs of sales, VP of marketing, VP of HR, all those people are interesting to you, and you pull up 20 people, rather than having to individually input all their information, which could take, gosh, easily a half an hour, you just basically select them and sync as contacts. You press this button, you choose 1 or 2 more things, and you're done. It's really that simple. And that was what I was talking about as far as transferring information from our database to yours. It takes very, very little effort. Let's go back here. So let's say we don't care about the title. We just want to start a conversation and see if there's a fit here, see if there's something there, or get a conversation started. Let's see. I know one person here, James Vicari. He's actually an old friend of mine back from college. I could use this person, reach out and say, hey, James, would you mind talking to me about X, Y, and Z? I could use my coworkers. Let's get rid of my connections. We have several people that my coworkers know, over 241. In fact, one of them, let's say, Brad here. He's a really good one. Maybe we want to talk to him. Let me just pull him out. We can pull up Brad. We can learn more about him, past employments, his education history. We can read more about him on his Twitter. What kind of person is he? What does he talk about? What does he care about? Well, obviously, avid golfer. That might be a great way to start a conversation. Maybe we both love golf. Maybe we both go to the same golfing range because we live in the same town. Who knows? Might be a great way to start a conversation. We can pull up his LinkedIn profile and read more about him. Okay. Let's see here. Great. Perfect. We even have a connection. In fact, you can see it here. You'll see it when I go back. Here we go. Our connection to Brad, Greg Brush. And so if I want to talk to Greg and say, hey, Greg, I see you know Greg, I see you know Brad here via LinkedIn. Would you mind sending me, or introducing us? It's as easy as a click, and you're good to go. So, and if that isn't enough, let's say Greg doesn't really know Brad that well. He was a casual connection that he made from an event or a party or whatever, so doesn't really know him that well. I can still reach out to Brad, and I've got many different ways to start a conversation with him. It's as easy as a couple clicks, basically, and you get directly to that information. So I hope that explained that in enough depth. This will show you many different ways to kind of do that. Let me see if I can find a reference customer for you. There we go. So, let's see. Oh yeah, looks like Brad also works, or he used to work at a happy customer of ours. Host Analytics uses us, loves us. Maybe that's a really good way to start a conversation, both through Greg and both as a reference saying, hey, we also work with Host Analytics. They love our process. This is the kind of benefits that they've seen. We'd love to have a conversation, see if what we do here, we could also do for you over at Apple. Boom. There you go. It's a pretty powerful conversation, especially if something is going on in his territory as we found through insights or through his company, that is relevant to the conversation we're having, or is maybe relevant to the way we helped host analytics. That would be a very, very powerful conversation. I would be surprised if you didn't get a response from a conversation around that level of engagement. So, all right, so we've talked about the overview. I showed you the 3 pillars, or the 3 technologies that we provide: the data, the insights, and the connections, how we use. We have a few more things that you can look at when you look at a company. Buzz, like we pull together all the social media buzz about a company, not just what they say about themselves, but also what others are saying about them. And it's not pulling. Let me see if I can find that for Dell, so you can see that. There we go. So everything that Dell is saying about themselves, and everything that everyone else is saying about, oh, that's nice, about them. And that may be a great conversation starter. In fact, we've had people use this stuff because loose lips sink ships. If you're familiar with that saying, we've had people who've used these things to start conversations because they've found out that a salesperson hit their quota or made a big sale or started a deal with a large company, and reached out to that sales manager over that person saying, hey, congratulations on starting that conversation, making that sale with this company. And that person was like, what are you talking about? I haven't heard about that yet. That's how quickly this stuff pops up. That's how immediate it is. It really can help you. And you can use this many different ways. That's just one example. We also offer information about the family tree. Basically the structure of the company, what companies they own, where they're located. If you'd like to learn more about the company in question, like Alienware, you click a button, and here you are in Alienware as a company. Learn more about them, how you're connected, information about them, that sort of thing. It's really as easy as step 1, 2, 3. You can also see competitors. If they're a publicly traded company, of course they're going to release information as far as what they consider to be competitors. And that might be, if you know you can work with Dell, that might be a call list right here. Call every single one of these guys because we could possibly work with them. Also, you can look at jobs that they're posting and their industry profile. So if you don't work inside the computer hardware, computer software industry that is in Apple or Dell's realm, you can learn a lot about their challenges, their trends, even some quick call prep questions to help you kind of wrap your head around their market, what kind of hurdles these guys may be facing, what kind of things that might be bothering them or might be on their, what keeps me up at night list, so you don't have to ask that question that everyone hates to hear. And this way, when you engage with these people, you're engaging at a much higher level. You're more intelligent, you're more informed about their market, what's going on inside their head, and what they care about. So they don't have to tell you this. Most people these days don't want to have to tell you these things. In fact, most of the time when they engage with you, they're already much farther down the sales process than you might imagine. So they want you to catch up with them. This will allow you to kind of catch up with them. All right, so we've talked about how to use the personal profile. I've showed you how to use the company profile. I want to show you 2 more things, and these are very, very powerful tools. And these leverage all 3 of our technology extremely well to make your life very, very easy. And seriously, it's fantastic. Let me just get straight to them. So the first one is build a list. This gives you complete access to our database. Every single company, every single person, all the titles, everywhere. And you can filter it down to a very, 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 very narrow view to really pull up very specific things and very specific talk lines or processes. To kind of give you an example of how you might be able to do this, it's similar to every build list you've probably ever seen. The difference is, besides just being able to do location, size, industry, sub-industry, what kind of business type they are, we allow you to use our insight technology and our connection technology to locate companies to talk to. So if you say, well, I looked at my entire territory, I'd like to know every company in corporate services or in computer hardware or in pharmaceutical or any industry, but I want to know which one of these companies, because it may come back with a list of 3,000, 4,000 strong. That's a huge list to kind of go after, especially if right now maybe 4 or 5 people on the list are ready to buy. Right now. In a month from now, it'll be too late. If you want to find those 4 or 5 people now and not lose them in that huge list of 4,000, the news and connections technology will allow you to do that. You can basically look for the agents that you know are sales processes or triggers for you and say, let's see, leadership changes. I want to know every company inside my territory that are going through leadership changes. I want to know who's doing that right now so I can start that conversation, be the first one today to say, hey, congratulations on making that new position, on getting that new promotion. You're probably concerned with X, Y, and Z inside your market. We've helped many other companies deal with these things. we'd love to have a conversation with you when you're ready about these things to see if we might be able to help you as well. Boom, that's a very powerful conversation. And normally these new guys come in, they have a lot of free time. They're either willing to talk to you or take a look at your product, or they're willing to consider new things, because it's always that kind of out with the old, in with the new approach. When a new guy comes in, they're always going to re-examine the process of how they do things. So boom, done. That takes that 2,000, 3,000 list, and let's say it whittles it down to about 200 or 100 companies. That's still a lot of companies kind of go down and pull up information and research and really have a deep conversation with. You can still cold call all of you want to, but that's just sort of still shooting in the dark. With the system, excuse me, let me just deal with that. There we go. You have that list. Well, who can you talk to today rather than tomorrow? Because sometimes you can't get these guys up on the phone right away. Well, if you have a warm connection to that company, or if you know the guy who just moved in, that would be very, very powerful. You can leverage our connection technology to do that. What that basically does, now you've said, well, here's a list of 200 companies that are probably ready to buy from you right now, or at least have a conversation. Which ones can you talk to today? Because you know them or have a very, very strong social connection to them. They're more likely to respond to you. You whittle it down, maybe that'll give you a list of 20, 50, maybe 80 customers or prospects that you could talk to right now, and that is the power of the system. So you've gone from a list of 4,000 or 2,000 people who may not even care or want to talk to you right now that you can spend a lot of time wasting calling out to, reaching and shooting in the dark, and now you know exactly who on that list is ready to buy and who you can talk to right now. Very, very powerful. I use this every time I start in a new area or looking for a new thing or a new market. I use this pretty much every day, actually. So let me talk about the watch list, and this is the final thing, and we'll wrap up and answer some questions for you. The analogy I like to use for the watch list, because this kind of sometimes can be a little bit difficult to wrap the head around, is most salespeople are considered hunters. We track down that game, we stalk it, we research it, we let loose that arrow, we shoot that call or that email, or we go to that event to try to bag that game. After all that time tracking down that single target, sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. When we get it, great, it's awesome, it's a great feeling. When we miss it, it stinks. We wasted all that time. And sometimes when you're focusing on one target, you miss things. That's the nature of the beast. Although with the watch list tool, it turns your hunters into fishermen. And what I mean by that is, with our watch list tool, you can watch up to 1,000 companies or 1,000 people, or a mishmash of both, per person who has access to this tool. So if you have 10 people, that is 10,000 companies or people that your people could be watching 24/7, looking for specific key events. And so it's like handing your salespeople who are hunters 1,000 fishing poles and saying, here you go. Set this to the right depth, put the right hook on it, put the right bait on it for the right fish we want to catch, cast it out, and whenever the bell rings on one of these poles, you reel it in. And then when you're done, you cast it right back out again. It's that simple. And so your people are very effectively using their time, and they most likely will not miss any sales that could be happening right now as they pass them by. And while you're fishing with 1,000 fishing poles, your salespeople can also be hunting like they would be naturally. So it makes them much more efficient with their time. It broadens their ability to cover more clients or prospects, and this way it'll really help. To kind of give you an example of how this has worked in the past, we have a client called Virtual Computing Environment. They look for companies expanding internationally. They had a salesperson who was using our tool who was watching a company called PayPal. I'm sure you're familiar with this game. When they expanded internationally, their rep received a notification from our system in their email box, and it looks just like this. And it said, hey, good morning, Steve. Good morning. Here is a company that you're watching, Honeywell International or PayPal. They are now expanding internationally. And this is what's going on. This person pulled this up. It was the perfect opportunity for them. It was the trigger event that they were looking for. He reached out to a connection of his via our system into PayPal, had a conversation with them, and in 6 weeks closed a $4 million deal because it was relevant, it was timely, they were the correct solution for the thing that they were trying to do, and he reached out to the proper person and engaged them at a high level that sped up the sales cycle and also allowed them to get a sale that they may have otherwise missed. That's the power of the watch list. So I've showed you how to use our system inside of Salesforce. I've showed you the sync function. I've showed you the data, the insights, and the connections on both the company and the people level. Showed you most of our other tools, and you can definitely dig into these when you run a trial with maybe one of our account executives, or use our free version. I definitely recommend a trial with an AE over the free version, because you do not get access to all of our tools. They also make sure you set it up properly for your system, which takes only a few minutes. And I went over the watch list and the build list. Do we have any questions about any of this technology or these tools?
Yeah, a couple questions, Steve, that have come in. First of all, can you just touch a little bit upon where we differ from data.com, maybe specifically with our data collection method and validation method, or any additional functionality?
Sure. So that's actually a really good question. I get this question quite a lot, because they are normally what people consider a competitor of ours. The very first thing you're going to notice between us and data.com is basically the amount of information that we collect. Data.com offers basic firmographic information. So if we go back to Apple here, they offer what you see up here, this firmographic information. When you look at people, let's pull up, like, say, Brad here, they will offer you information like his title, possibly his phone number, and his email. And that's about it. Data.com offers business card information. They don't offer you the insights. They don't offer you the social connections. They don't offer you those things that will help you engage on that higher level that we talked about. That's the major difference that you will notice as a user when you're going through it. There is also another level that most people don't notice, and that is actually how the data is collected, which is actually a huge difference if you can understand it. And to explain it very simply, Data.com works on a method that is called crowdsourcing. Basically, every salesperson out there puts together all the connections, all their little things that they have, their business cards they collected at a show. They put them in a pile, and that is the database. It trusts people to put the information in correctly. It also trusts them not to put in falsified information. And crowdsourcing works. It has its strengths. It also has its weaknesses. It is by far not the most perfect method out there, but it works for data.com. We collect our information in a different way. There are three main methods out there. Crowdsourcing, which we already talked about. There is editorial, where you pay people to go out and call into a business and collect that information. It is very time-consuming and very slow, but it can be very accurate. And there's also aggregation. Much like how Google goes out and aggregates a bunch of information and puts it in front of you via the Google search terms. We use all three of these methods only for their strengths and not for their weaknesses. So on the front end, we aggregate, because it allows us to pull in many different huge sources of information. In fact, you'll see them down here. All of our different relationships with different providers of information, Reuters, NetProspect. We have our own personal network. We also work with Equifax. As you can see them all down here. It pulls those massive amounts of information and quickly sorts through them and provides a very high level of information and accuracy, because we have a system called, I'm actually getting way too much nuts and bolts, but long story short, we pull in many different types of sources. We provide a higher level of accuracy because we only use the strengths of each individual method, and we provide it to you in a format much like this. It's easier to work with, it's easy to sync, and then it basically just makes the world a little bit easier when you're a salesperson. So I hope that answers the question. Was there any more questions?
Yeah, one more question I'll throw your way, but I will note, because I know we're running a little bit tight on time, I'm going to send an email address out now. So if anybody has to hop off and you want to reach out to us directly with specific questions, I just chatted it. It's sales@insideview.com. Feel free to touch base with us. Otherwise, we'll reach out to everybody in the next week or so. Last question I'll send your way, Steve, is can you discuss if there's any monthly limit or specific limitations around syncing contacts and leads into Salesforce?
As of right now, there is absolutely no limit on how many leads you can pull from our system. Now, there is a limit just for our server's sake, so you don't pull like 500 million leads and crash our servers. We have a limit of about 2,000 companies or people you can pull at any time. Push it into CSV or sync stuff directly into your system. I mean, we give you complete access to that system. It may change in the future. I don't know. I can't really talk to that, but at this point, we have unlimited access.
Perfect. All right. We will wrap up there. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us and for sticking around. We look forward to touching base with all of you, and hope you have a great day. Thank you, Steve.
No, thank you all. Thanks for joining.